Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. This is Jose Perez. I'm the Senior VP of Business Development for HomeGenius. And today, we're going to talk about lead gen strategies in this market. And it's really important to understand that there are a lot of different opportunities out there that exist for generating leads. Doesn't necessarily mean you're buying them, but we'll talk about that too. You notice the title of our presentation is, do you know the value of your agent's sphere? One thing that we're going to really drill down on is how much value your agents currently have inside their own database, and you too if you're a broker. So our show here is going to include Jonathan Lickstein. Jonathan, you want to say a couple words about yourself and about your company?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jose. Jonathan Lickstein, as previously stated, the COO for Location Real Estate. We currently operate across 6 states in the nation, 3,500 realtors, and been recently featured by both RISMedia and some other news outlets as one of the faster growing real estate brokerages across the country and the 13th largest independent brokerage in the country. So we pride ourselves on doing things our way, the hard way, and getting to the end of the line, whatever that might be for the goals of that quarter or that year. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Vince, tell us about you and your company.
I'm the CEO and president of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services and Bassett Real Estate here in Omaha, Nebraska. We serve the metro area here of Omaha, Council Bluffs, and we're also down in Lincoln. We've got a little bit over 1,000 agents, and I office out of what I'd call a mega office, an 81,000 square foot office building where we have 750 of those 1,000 agents. And we'll do about 9,000 to 10,000 deals a year on this one office and about 13,000 units per year out of the whole company. So we're in the Midwest. We don't have a high average sales price, so we got to sell a lot of houses to make any money around here.
Good. Well, we look forward to hearing about your thoughts on lead gen. And our sponsor from Curbio, Sarah.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm so delighted to be here and excited to learn with everybody and hear wonderful information and learnings and feedback. My name is Sarah Smith. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager at Curbio, which is your solution for fix now, pay when you sell pre-listing updates. We are not in Nebraska, but we are where Location Real Estate is, slowly marching our way across the country. And we are, as I said, your solution to boost the value of every single listing, really helping you to sell at the top of the market, bring a option for every listing and bringing those move-in ready updates that every listing needs to sell quickly and for more. We see a 269% return on investment on average on our projects and an $80,000 average seller profit as well. We're solely focused on pre-listing updates that are going to boost value and really appeal to today's buyers. And we're here to help you save time as well and hassle by giving you a dedicated project manager for every Curbio project. So if you're looking to be the solutions-oriented agent that your sellers need, absolutely bring Curbio in to make those updates. Jose, on the next slide too, I believe we just introduced our super exciting, awesome Curbio mobile app. If you haven't downloaded it yet, go ahead, scan the QR code, you can do that. It allows you to not only build instant estimates and see pricing for pre-listing update projects, which of course are all going to be paid at closing, no cost due ahead of time, but also the projected ROI, as well as handling home inspection report repairs. You can upload your home inspection report directly in the app and price those out and have our team take care of them. We'll defer the cost till closing as well. So download that app, give Curbio a try, bring us in to tackle those pre-listing updates you need to sell at the top of the market. And I'm excited to be here and excited to, as I said, learn alongside everyone.
Well, thank you, Sarah. And actually, Sarah being the sponsor here goes hand in hand with the theme, and that is, how do we generate business, right? How do we generate leads? And so certainly, and I'll let Sarah talk about this later on in some of the questions we're going to ask, certainly helping someone to spend money to remodel their home that's going to potentially lead to a listing, or even a referral is one way to generate leads. We'll talk more about that afterwards. If you have questions, please use the chat dashboard inside the GoToWebinar box there on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll be monitoring those questions along the way to answer anything anybody has. So without further ado, let's go to the first question. I'm going to throw it out to the group. What does lead generation mean? to you, and how has it changed in the past 3 to 5 years? Because there have been a lot of changes. So I'm just going to throw this out to the group and we'll get our conversation going.
I'm happy to go. What does lead gen mean to me? Lead gen means basically how are we reaching out to people in our database or are not our database, being the digital world, to generate business, to help us grow, to move to the next level. And how has it changed the last 3 to 5 years? I would tell you within our organization and other top producers I talked to around the country, I think if you go back 5 years ago, you had tons of people spending $500, $1,000, maybe $1,500 on Zillow and Realtor.com and a lot of these online lead gen sources. And what we found over the last couple of years is that most of those people that were doing that type of money kind of got out of the way. They went down to just having a very minimal presence, or they went really big, spending $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 plus, and they're trying to get some vendors and other people to do that. And because of that, we've got a handful of people that are spending lots of money on that, but the vast majority of our people, we've tried to take and go into other lead gen. What's your sphere? How do you work them? How do you build and nurture relationships? And then use that in conjunction with social media and digital and stuff like that to make sure that you're reaching people, communicating as often as you can with as much clarity as you can, to add value to them in that process. So we've really focused on the relationship side of that, but there's clearly an online side of that and a digital side of that also.
Well, speaking of that, I know Jonathan, you're big on digital, so talk about what you're seeing over the last few years.
Yeah, so I mean, lead generation as a whole, I think has a different meaning to each individual agent. You have to find what resonates with you and your personality and what's going to come, not necessarily natural because it wasn't in the real estate industry, your natural tendencies, but what comes natural to you as a relationship builder and salesperson within the real estate industry. I mean, I've got agents who find a lot of success simply taking one of their hobbies, like being a stay-at-home mom, for example. One of my top 50 realtors out of 3,500 is a stay-at-home mom who has just embraced that network of other mothers that she's able to relate and resonate and create relationships with. So her type of marketing and lead generation is very different than the powerhouse cold caller who's going to be working for 4 hours every morning and every evening trying to build contacts and appointments. So lead generation can take a different shape for each person. And I feel like over the last 3 to 5 years, it's transitioned more and more into an online basis as far as starting the conversation. But yet the older tactics, the door knocking, the getting in front of someone, getting them into your office are still the tried and true methods that help leverage that relationship further. But I do believe much more has gone online. People buying homes without ever seeing them in person, doing virtual showings, making a significant purchase in their lives through seeing things online or through a video presentation. So digital presence and branding online and through how you put yourself out through the outside sales vision has become even more important now than it was 3 to 5 years ago.
Jose, we don't hear you.
Things like Curbio didn't really exist 3 to 5 years ago. So Sarah, talk about that, because there's a lot of alternative type of lead generation. I say alternative because they're new, but different than what's typically been done. So explain how companies like Curbio and others that are doing kind of creative things are generating leads.
Yeah, for sure. Nowadays, being an agent, even though most sellers are still working with agents, they're meeting with just one agent. And like Jonathan said, they're doing, buyers are doing their research ahead of time. They are going on virtual walkthroughs essentially of the home before they're even setting foot in it. And so it's almost like the bar has really been raised for agents in terms of it's not just opening doors and showing, interested buyers around, talking with sellers and helping them to list the house. It really is being solutions oriented and having what they need in their toolkit to show up as being prepared and help their sellers truly fetch top dollar and appeal to as many of today's buyers as possible. With it being that the majority of today's buyers are both baby boomers and millennials, which is an interesting mix. Move-in ready is the name of the game. And so, Curbio, that's what we do. We help make those listings appeal to today's buyers, but we also help you be not just the solution and the general contractor who's going to complete it, but giving you the tools to talk educated talk in educated terms about, the impact of a kitchen refresh or the impact of refinishing floors, and really how that's going to help your sellers. And then also giving you those marketing tools, social media templates, postcards, one pagers to put in the hands of your sellers, et cetera, to really help to build your presence, like Jonathan was saying, in the online sphere, social media, helping you to build your brand and lean into and be vocal about what it is that today's sellers need. So lots of agent enablement, and then as well being able to complete those projects that need doing to help the home list for top dollar, sell for top dollar, and appeal to today's buyers.
Jose,
and I think, yeah.
To piggyback on that, a thought pops in my head. What Sarah's saying, which I really think has changed tremendously over the last couple of years, is if you look at with COVID, the anxiety, the stress, all the emotional things that go into a real estate transaction is what we really want to talk about and preach all the time, is how do we create concierge services, right? How do we create these things to add value? But more importantly, how do we make this an easy, simple, stress-free, hopefully enjoyable transaction for the consumer in the process? That really is a burden that I think is more important now than ever, because the value you can bring from relieving stress, helping getting these vendors, helping getting these things done, that adds value to them, but it takes it off the plate of the seller. That burden should fall onto the agent, and people will pay a premium for those type of things. So we really focus on this word. What are we doing to create concierge services to remove the stress and help them through that process? That's what comes to mind when Sarah's talking.
Absolutely. And they expect the agent to essentially be their concierge, right? Seller expectations have ratcheted up. And so, of course, it's still a relationship business, but it is also, y'all, agents are called upon to bring it all and bring as much as they can and achieve and reach that higher bar. So absolutely, that's what sellers are looking for. It's like, help me solve this problem, make it as easy as you possibly can for me. That's how you continue to get leads coming in the door.
Yeah, I think the common theme I'm hearing here is consumer experience, right? Client for life, right? Because I mean, what you're doing, Sarah, and actually what all of you have talked about, is justifying, the activity to get in touch with that client of yours. Maybe they bought a house 3 or 4 years ago, but they're going to do something again in the future. And if you can help them now, they're going to be there for you. And in the meantime, they might send you some referrals. So I think this is all really great stuff that's, again, I think a lot different than it was, 3, 5, 7 years ago, where there wasn't, in my opinion, as much personalization being done. And now it's an expectation, not just of realtors, right? Everything that someone buys, they get a personalized service, right? Whether they're ordering their plane ticket on the Delta app or they're getting a lift, it's all personalized to that person. They know what's going on. There's a lot of transparency. So I think that's key. But then the next thing is, depending on how much you're spending in all of these areas, is how do you determine the ROI? I see billboards, I see bus stops, I see all kinds of crazy stuff that people do, refrigerator magnets. I'm thinking, okay, well, how do you measure ROI on something like that? Some of the things you guys are talking about, I think, really are measurable. So talk about, whoever wants to take the first stab at this question, how do you measure ROI and really get to a place where you are spending $1 and making, whatever you're making from there?
So I'll start that one off if you don't mind. Actual perceived ROI and actual ROI are very different things, right? So you can look at, okay, I spent X amount of money on bus benches. How many people called and mentioned bus benches? Yeah, you're going to have a number on that, but that's your perceived ROI. What your actual ROI on that advertisement is not truly measurable. Is the idea behind outward marketing, outward exposure, is that they look at the bus bench, they see you on some search engine optimization marketing, some keywords through Google, then they see you on social media. The idea is that they're seeing you in different places, and there's a reason and a subliminal effect that happens to a consumer when seeing you in multiple places. That's why retargeting online became such a powerful beast. You go and you look at a sweater online and it follows you. That little sweater follows you around the internet. And that's the idea with marketing when you're localized into a specific farming area. They turn and see an open house, a real estate sign, a bus bench. Then they got a mailer from you, direct mail, and they see you on social media, or they see you active in their local neighborhood. That's kind of the network market of what you see in different aspects around. And the perceived ROI and the actual ROI differ very, very much. The reaction to this statement in particular is you don't know truly what your ROI is, but your best guess is getting all of these different lead generation tactics that you're doing coming into one centralized database that you can then compare apples to apples and decide where your spend is being done smartly or being wasted.
So Vince, when you're talking about some of these concierge things, I mean, it's not cheap, it's a lot of work, and I'm sure you have a staff to do it. You know, how do you justify the investment?
So me?
Yeah.
So I agree with Jonathan that one is we've got to reach out there. But one of the things I want to mention though when we come to ROI, and I agree that a lot of stuff is hard to measure, and that's the reason we've got to be in so many different places, right? And then you need to be asking questions and gathering information to figure out really what your return is. One of the things I always want to warn people on when they talk about rate of return, I get agents on occasion talking about here's the money I spent, and I know the question's about money, but I always want people to understand what is the time spent, what is the amount of time you're spending on social media and building relationships and these other things. And I always tell people, if you've listened to me ever talk before, you know I'm a broken record, is understand the value of your time. You should look at what's the rate of return on your money, and but also your time should be just as valuable to you. And quite honestly, I'm at a point in my life where time is more valuable to me than money. And understand if I'm spending this many hours of something, here's a cost, and I better be getting a return on that. And so as a general rule, if you want to know, 2,000 hours of working per year, for every $100,000 you make, your time is worth $50 an hour. So if you're a person out there making $200,000 a year, your time's $100 an hour, and you spent 8 hours or 10 hours or something on this, we'll value that just the same as 10 hours at $100 an hour is $1,000. That should be, you should be looking at that exactly as if you spent $1,000 on that. So I always want people to not get caught up on rate of return of just based on what's the dollar spent, but what's the time I'm spending on these activities, and what's the best use of my time as well as my dollar.
Yeah, one thing that I would add, and then I want to ask Sarah a question related to this, is most agents, I don't think, know the value of their sphere. So if you're focused on, I know we're talking about some digital stuff that Jonathan mentioned, but you're talking about concierges and Sarah talking about what she does. But I would argue that most agents don't have a clue how much money they have in their sphere. So if you take the average agent's 397 consumers in their database, and you believe NAR's stat of 9.3% mobility, people moving or knowing someone they're going to move in the next 12 months, that's 37 opportunities people have in that database right there. People they know, people that if they did something special, whether it's a concierge thing, whether it's doing a CMA, whatever it is, or sending Sarah out to talk to them about remodeling, those are all things that can generate ROI right from inside your database. So I would argue you should know the value of your sphere and then back into some of these things you can do to get the ROI. So Sarah, can you measure with Curbio, what the ROI is for I guess it's they don't pay till later, but still, you want to get a sense for how much it costs and how much the return was.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a couple facets I'll touch on for this. So yes, first off, for projects, I'm really excited. We're going to have a full ROI report coming out from Curbio as we get into May and June. So really excited. We'll absolutely share that with the RISMedia community, and of course, agents will want to take talking points and nuggets from that to share. That goes into detail, based on all the projects that we've completed, really sharing out what's the ROI on a kitchen refresh versus a kitchen remodel. Spoiler, a refresh is a higher ROI than a kitchen remodel because it's less cost up front. But talking points like that to arm agents with. When we talk about rate of return on pre-listing update projects, it is, and in fact, that's one of the things that you can actually do in the Curbio app is really see that projected value add. Money that you're going to put in that your sellers are not going to pay until closing is going to directly equal money that you can add to the listing cost, and ultimately it is cost that your buyers, when they're walking through the house, they're seeing a brand new refrigerator, a brand new oven, a brand new dishwasher. That's rate of return right there, right? Return on investment right there, because they are not then detracting those dollar amounts from the list price. They're seeing all the punch list items on the home inspection report completed. They're seeing updated floors, they're seeing updated kitchen, they're seeing updated bathroom. And so talk about ROI right there. They are keeping that list number in their heads and they're not backing anything out. And so when it comes to thinking about ROI, that's a great way to look at it. I'll say too, in terms of spend, brokerages, agents, you do not have to pay anything to work with Curbio. So when it comes to spending out to generate leads or, spending out to put solutions in your toolkit, there's absolutely no cost to work with Curbio, and there's no cost for your sellers until they get to closing either. So we're truly, a wonderful solution to bring in. And then lastly, and Brooke Miller, Long and Foster agent, had spoken about this on our past RISMedia webinar. But what she does as a strategy is when she completes a Curbio project, she'll host an open house just for the neighbors in that farm area, in that marketing farm area, because they've been seeing, the big dumpster outside, and they've been seeing the contractors go in and out. They're curious to see what's going on. Their house was built at the same time. So she'll host an open house just for them, a champagne open, get the looky-loos in there so they're not clogging up your open house, when you actually go to list. But then that's a great way to generate, like you said, Jose, if it's not a lead right then, could be in a year or two. They had a wonderful experience with you. They're now looking to sell. They want to update. They remember that. So even, y'all have talked truly about at the core of real estate are relationships to build. And I think capitalizing on those in every possible way you can and chasing those down continues to be at the heart and soul of it. And, an updated property helps you to do that.
Well, one of the great things that I was thinking about when I was asked to moderate this is the idea that we have so many perspectives here on this call, right? And they're all great perspectives. So, Jonathan, I'm going to throw it back to you to get a little bit more specific on, besides portal leads, which we all know about, give 2 or 3 examples of things that are working for you and your agents. That are generating that ROI that makes you feel like, okay, I'm on the right track. I'm doing those things. Is it social? Is it SEO? What is it?
Combination of all of the above. So social media is only effective if you plan your infrastructure ahead of time, meaning the people and the leads that come in through social media lead generation ads, which I primarily promote the digital lead magnet as the best resource to bring in contacts online through social media, offer something of value to get something valuable back in return for yourself, their contact information. Give them an article, an ebook, a list of tips, etc., free evaluation, equity analysis, whatever the key term might be to be the draw in your marketplace. But in return, contact information that gives them all of this and gives you the ability to follow up. So these lead magnets, they have to go somewhere. And the people that are inquiring on these different lead magnets or different teasers are very, very new in the pipeline. They are not even thinking really about buying a home yet. If they were, they'd be coming in through the other lead generation scenarios or the portals where they're hitting directly later on in the pipeline. So these leads that are coming in through social media, the average agent will not be following up enough and getting them into the communication and nurturing pipeline in order to convert them at the time in which they can be converted. So if you're doing social media, think of the infrastructure ahead of time, a drip campaign, a text campaign, a follow-up campaign, or utilizing partners like a credit repair company that can help get these people ready to purchase when the time is right for them. So social media, yes, but you must nurture them in the right way in order for that to convert. Those who are doing the 1, 2, 3, not successful.
And it's got to be ongoing, right? I mean, you got to end up with a following. I mean, I know what I do on social. I mean, I run into people all over the country. Oh, I just saw your article. I just saw this. And that's what you do. It's consistency of message, and that you're adding value. And so, Sarah, I mean, you talked about social templates. I would think that an agent promoting this service of yours would get a lot of attraction on social and maybe emails as well. How do they do that? How do you suggest?
Yeah, sure. And we do. We have, marketing materials for agents to use. You can add your logo to them, customize them, make your own. We make it really easy. We even share some great stock before and after photos, so you can show a really hideous before and a beautiful after, along with suggested caption copy. So helping to make it easy for y'all to build your brand out there and put it out there. But then also sharing stats, that are really eye-catching. 80% of today's buyers buyers don't want a fixer-upper, right? Is your home ready to sell? You know, $80,000 on average. Are you going to wait a couple extra weeks to be able to make that? Yes. And so helping to lead with those eye-catching, you know, posts that are going to grab people's attention, grab sellers' attention, and ultimately get at, you know, y'all have said it, but that anxiety or you know, feeling of being uncomfortable when it comes to selling your home. It's emotional, it's financially taxing, you know, it's anxiety producing. And so really getting at those feelings, issues, pulling those out, teasing those out, and then helping to provide a solution. So yeah, I will, and Peter, the admin on our webinar, I'll share the link to our marketing materials page with him, and so he can share that out to the audience. Absolutely. But we love to see how y'all use those marketing materials, how you're influencing your sphere, how you're sharing the solution. So absolutely tag us.
Well, you made a great point there. People don't want to buy fixer-uppers. In fact, my good friend Dennis Walsh talks about, hey, do you want to sell your house retail or you want to sell your house wholesale? And so that talks right to what we're talking about here. So I want to kind of change gears a little bit, if it's okay, and go to Vince. Vince, why is it that agents don't spend, it doesn't seem like they're spending the money mining their own database? You know, look at the numbers I quoted earlier. You know, 37 people in that database are going to move or know someone who's going to move in the next 12 months, yet they're not doing anything. Or they're either doing nothing, 74% of agents do nothing, according to Zillow, or they're sending tchotchkes that, you know, at the end of the day don't really mean a lot.
I hate to say this. This is becoming an industry of have and have nots. And the top agents that are productive, that have good systems in place, that are disciplined, they understand the value of it. And so many people get in this business thinking it's easy business and you don't have to work, it's just going to fall in your lap. And they think, because I know a lot of people and some of them know I'm in real estate business, I'm going to get business. And that's just not the truth. And I'd say that's less the truth today than it's ever been before. So, and I agree with your numbers. I would tell somebody, get a database of 300 people, right? And the simple part of me of doing lead gen is do 5 calls a week, or per day, 5 days a week, do 5 calls, do 5 texts, do 5 handwritten notes, and then get face-to-face with 2 or 3 people every single week to do that. And if you're reaching out to someone, right, 25 people a week, in 3 months, you've got through everybody having a 2-way communication. Now you've got to do with what Jonathan's doing. You've got to have social media, you got to have digital, you got to have other things, you got to have home bot, emails, other ways of reaching out to them, stay connected in a more meaningful basis. But the bottom line is, I tell people, unfortunately, when they come in here and say, why don't we have any business? When you start asking what they're doing, they're not doing client appreciation parties. They're not doing Popeyes. They're not getting face-to-face with people. They're not doing anything to build or nurture a relationship other than saying, I'm in real estate, call me. So what is the value they're adding? They're really not adding value. So at the end of the day, if you think about that, get in front of those people on a regular basis. The market's changing, right? I would argue the market has changed more the last 3 years than we've ever seen at any time out there. People love talking about real estate. It's directly related to the economy. So be knowledgeable, give them updates on what's going on with interest rates, with mobile offers and different price points, with new construction, all these type of things. But the bottom line at the end of the day is people have a bad boss. And unfortunately, all they got to do is look in the mirror, because we're our own boss in this business. And so you've got to figure out, how do I put a system in place? How do I time block? You know, how do I become disciplined, and do I get an accountability partner? Do I get a coach? Unfortunately, the vast majority of people are not wired to hold themselves accountable. So until they can put a system in place to have accountability, to do these things and create great habits, the vast majority of agents are never going to understand the value of their sphere. Because to your point, there's 30 deals sitting there. If you're working your sphere on a daily basis, doing these regular things, you're embracing. I always say social media, technology, innovation is nothing more, but very, very important, nothing more, and more important than ever, nothing more than a vehicle to create an opportunity to build and nurture relationships. And to have a great relationship, people have got to like you, believe in you, have confidence in you, and trust you. So create likability first. That's the most important initial trait. But give them knowledge, give them value, give them reasons on a regular basis through all of these vehicles, through email, through social, through digital, through personal face-to-face, to understand what you're doing. But at the end of the day, you've got to create the habits. You got to have a system. And if you don't have a system, you're going to be in trouble.
Hey, that's great, Vince. Jonathan, I'm just curious, with you being in multiple states, you know, in multiple markets. I know you're in South Florida, but in other markets. I mean, I find just in my travels around the country, there's certain parts of the country where it's kind of the wild, wild west and people aren't as professional as other parts of the country. Do you find that people do better jobs in different one of your markets, or is this just like a industry-wide thing that's just the way it is?
So that's a great question. It's a constant topic of conversation, really. So I found our hub, which is South Florida, is probably the worst when it comes to professionalism compared to other parts.
That's what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I found that our agents and our transactions, for example, in the Colorado marketplace, we have very few issues. Georgia, same way. South Carolina, it's like they're the most respectful people in the world in our industry. It's amazing. I keep hearing Sarah say y'all, and I love it. It's that Southern charm. That's why they don't get mad at each other. They stay professional.
Yeah. Do you think, though, Jonathan, I mean, in your group, I mean, if people quantify, I mean, I love what Vince said about accountability and holding yourself accountable, but do you think if people thought, okay, I've got 37 deals in my database that are going to do something in the next 12 months, if I'm making $10,000 a deal, that's $370,000 potential commissions. Do you think anybody thinks that way and says, oh gosh, if I got like 10% of that, that's another $37,000 in commissions for me? Do you think agents can get to a place where they think like that?
Yes and no. So part of the beauty in real estate and what it is the freedom. They say the freedom of time, which is a misnomer, but when you're talking about freedom, it's freedom to make out of the industry what you want it to be. And that might be being that powerhouse top 1% type agent who must think like that. But then again, there's also agents who want to do 12, 15, 20 deals a year, and that's going to be their cap and what they're comfortable doing. So it really depends. If you want to be that entrepreneurial agent who's going to grow, build a team, become one of those higher percentage producers, then you have to think like that. You have to think, where can I cultivate a deal from any different angle? And that includes maximizing the value of your sphere. It's not turn and burn and go transactional. It's, okay, I've closed one deal. How can I turn that into 3 more?
Yeah. So Sarah, just from where you sit, because you're a little different. I mean, both these guys are brokers, right? So you're a little bit different, right? You're more service / technology. Why do you think agents do such a bad job staying in touch with their sphere?
Everyone's busy, right? And I think too, it's very this was a learning too from the previous RIS webinar. It's thinking about both sides of the coin. When you're working with a seller or when you're working with a buyer, oftentimes they're also selling. It's thinking holistically about that entire relationship, and even just asking those probing questions. I feel like it can often get transactional. Everyone's busy. It's your sellers, they have questions they want to ask you. They're on the phone to handle business real quick and then they want to hop off, or same with buyers. And so I think it's going that step beyond and really pushing for that long-term relationship, or pushing for just beyond just we're working together to sell your home. It's that we're building something here, and keeping that in mind. That's funny, Jonathan, you say like different areas of the country think about that differently. I mean, if you treat every relationship like it should give you 3 more leads, and you nurture each one of those, even just with old-fashioned staying in touch and following up and a handwritten thank you note. I'm from South Georgia, and so for me, it's those etiquette things, they never go out of style, right? But I think continuing to stay relevant by sharing tips or sharing knowledge and nuggets and information about today's market. People are hungry for those pieces of information. If you're an agent who can continue to share a wealth of information with your sellers, with your buyers, even after the transaction has closed, and you stay top of mind, that'll take you far. So I think it all goes to education, relationship building. A lot of it is back to basics, but it's how do you do it in today's day and age? And again, working with a partner like Curbio allows you to have a reason to go out to sellers, and a reason to help them meet today's buyers' expectations and demands.
Jose, Sarah said something, because they're busy, which is really important, because we know human behavior 101 tells us when people get busy, right? So in this world, we've got a lot of people working with buyers, mobile offers, they're not getting deals together, they're getting frustrated. So they're they're focused on their current business, right? Your calendar should have your current business, your future business, which is your prospecting, your business growth, your revenue generating activities, and your personal life. Because even as Jonathan says, even the top 1%, they want balance in their life. They still want to have a life to do the things that they love. But the whole problem is when people get busy, that's why everyone's on this, many are on this roller coaster, right? They focus on the current business because that's instant gratification. They continue to focus on the personal life. But the first thing that falls off because they don't understand the value of that future business, and they won't have business 3 to 6 months from now, is that future businesses. So that goes by the wayside. And that's the reason I talk about you need systems and accountability and discipline to do those things. And so we always talk about how do we give them excuses to generate leads, right? Why do we want client appreciation parties? Why do, it gives you an excuse to reach out to everybody. You reach out to 300 people in your database, only 75 to 100 are going to show up, but you're touching everybody. So we're always like, what kind of activities can we do that gives you an excuse to get out there to reach out to somebody versus an excuse not to reach out to people, which by nature it's very easy for us to do.
Yeah, we're talking about folks being busy, which leads me to the next question is, I always hear people say, CMA a day, you touched on some of this, Vince, earlier, but if you talk about a CMA a day, I mean, we've done surveys, and I think on our one survey that we did with the Residential Real Estate Council, we found 81% of agents said it takes them over 30 minutes to do a CMA, a legacy CMA, and 63% said that it took them over 45 minutes. 59% said they would do more if it was easier because they know the value of it, right? Because if you can give somebody really valuable information about their property and about the market, et cetera, they're going to talk to you. So I guess the question is, how do you balance busy, right? And they can't justify spending 45 minutes with, hey, if you do something like that, you're going to generate a conversation, right? So yeah, the parties are great, all that other stuff, right? But at the end of the day, to give them real valuable data about their neighborhood, it's going to take time to put it together, right? Just so they just don't snap their fingers, right? So talk about that. I don't care who takes this one, but I'm just curious what your thoughts are there.
I'll talk real fast and I'll pass it off to Jonathan. I think you have two things. One is we love and encourage our people to use things like HomeBot, which sends out a monthly estimate of their value, which allows them to go in there, and then you can go into a tool like that. This is where you're using technology to go in there and see how often they're looking at things, and there's a call to action to reach out to you on those type of things. But one of the other things that we tell people to do, because you're 100% right, is twice a year, everybody in your database, do a neighborhood snapshot of that market analysis in there, and then put a little statement in their some handwritten note to them, but always have a call to action. Give me a call if you'd like a deeper dive into CMA on your house, or when you list a house, the 10 houses around that, drop by unsolicited a CMA to that. But I mean, there is no ifs, ands, or buts that people, if you get a CMA or some sort of a vehicle in front of people talking about the value of their house, they're going to be an interest, and there many times is going to be a call to action to you, and that's going to generate leads for you because people are intrigued by that type of stuff.
The only I like HomeBot a lot. The only thing I worry about with HomeBot, I've heard this from people, is because it's just an AVM, right? If that number's off, you might alienate someone. I mean, so what do you think about that? I mean, I think HomeBot does a great job, but I also feel, I talked about it earlier, that the personalization is the thing that really makes the difference, right? I did this report for you. I ran a report on your property and maybe gave you some additional information, et cetera, the handwritten note, all that kind of thing. So do you think that these automated tools, and HomeBot's one, and there's others, right? These automated tools, set it and forget it, are as effective as personalizing it?
They're not, but one of the things is we use it as an excuse. So when people start out with HomeBot, we're like, use it as an excuse to reach out to everybody in your database and tell them, I'm going to start sending this monthly tool to you. It's not going to be exactly right. Go in and play with it, reach out to me, but at least it's something, for you to look at. Our open rate that we have with our 250, 300 agents in our company that are using it is 65, 70% for the vast majority of them. But again, I'm coming back to what gives me an excuse to reach out to somebody. So reach out and let them know that it's not going to be perfect. It's absolutely not as good as a detailed report on their house individually. If you're getting face-to-face with a coffee or lunch, I want you to be bringing a market analysis on somebody's house, a fairly detailed one, giving them an update like a financial advisor would do when they're meeting with somebody.
Yep. Jonathan, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, there's a couple different things. So I'm going to piggyback off that one first, and then I'll go in a different direction. So first off, it depends on how you're marketing yourself to that sphere, right? I totally understand Vince's logic with that, and that is correct for a good portion of agents. However, if you're targeting a specific farming area and you're trying to generate a conversation, what's the number one thing a consumer cares about? It's number one. It's what's in it for me radio, WIIFM, right? What's in it for me? So a very direct and personalized market analysis, or an analysis of what they could do to improve on their valuation that you're providing them. Like you could do the kitchen and it would give you a kitchen reface and it would give you X amount of return on your investment. If you did the bathrooms, the flooring, the roof, et cetera, it's going to give you these types of increase on your valuation, gives you a detail and kind of piques their interest to a different level. But that's when you're targeting an individual person, not casting a wide net. The number one thing that I think agents could do differently is get out there and stop being shy. Too many agents try, and I know we're talking a lot about digital exposure and digital marketing and causing conversations through phone reach out and digital methods. But don't forget, we're all human beings, and COVID gave everybody a new refined perspective on human-to-human interaction. Getting out from behind the computer screen and the webcam like what we're doing right now, and get out. Be that personality that goes to the bank, and the teller, the person in front of you, the person behind you, and the security guard at the door all know who you are, what you do, and how to get a hold of you. You have to get back to being that mayoral or networking individual in person, and the digital aspects they just make it that much better. They just elevate you that much more. But you can't forget the human aspect of this. That's why realtors are important. That's why we'll stay relevant.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Again, like all of you, I'm in sales, and I'm so happy to be back out on the road the last year. Oh my God, it's just, first of all, I hate sitting behind a computer, right? And it's not personal to your point, but you get back out, and I've been out now again a year or whatever that I've been back on the road, and the difference is palpable. It really is, which leads really to the next question. I'll direct this to Sarah. With all the changes happening in the pandemic and people moving from one place to another, people working from home, I would imagine that's going to lead to a lot of opportunities where an agent can provide value through Curbio, for example. So what have you found there, Sarah?
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned earlier, the two biggest populations of buyers are baby boomers and millennials. 39% of today's buyers are boomers and 28% are millennials. And, move-in ready is key, but obviously for that millennial section and even for baby boomers, people are working from home. And so thinking about how you're leaning into optimizing flex spaces, optimizing offices at home, leaning into marketing that way and really knowing who today's buyers are, having those conversations with your sellers to say, you've got this den over here, but it could be a dandy office, we can put a door on it. Lean into that, know who the buyers are, know the things that they're looking for. The bottom line too is that people are spending more time at home today than ever. It's where everyone entertains, right? We may be back out in person at events, but and on the road, but in addition to working from home, you're entertaining from home. It's the locus of everything. And again, folks do not want projects. They want move-in ready homes. And so again, providing value there. I'll say too, just to cap on what I talked about earlier about folks being busy, that's something Curbio, when you insert us as a solution in, we manage our projects completely from start to finish. And so to free up your time that as an agent, you might be spending managing projects right now, right? And we hear from so many agents who are saying, well, I have my guys come and they handle everything. And, I'm the one who coordinates the schedule. And it's like, devote your time instead to building that future pipeline like Vince was talking about, and to building those relationships and to staying in touch and giving yourself a reason to reach out. Like pass the puck, kick that to Curbio, let us handle the project management piece so that y'all can really focus on building your business and building your brand. And so, I think it is, we do live in a post-COVID world, and in some ways, a world that is still grappling with COVID. And so in terms of how it's affected, the industry as a whole, there's a lot of great opportunities. Folks are keen to talk to other people. No one is more excited right now to have in-person interactions and, go to an open house and have a glass of champagne with someone, and to shake hands and to, like Jonathan said, like know that real estate agent in town who has that podcast or who is kind of that mayoral presence. Like it's a great opportunity, so it seems, for building that pipeline and for building those relationships, and then also for showing that human side of everyone. I know we had an agent talking about her presence on social media recently, how she'll often do like a day in the life, marketing piece or little video, a reel. And it's such a great reminder, like we've all lived through shared experiences. It's an opportunity to connect with your clients, and to really show them, I really am out here hustling. I do want to work with you. I want to work hard. I want to bring you the value. So, I think, I know there's challenges, but I think ultimately there's a lot of great opportunities where we sit right now and going forward.
That's great. Hey, Jonathan, similar to your comments earlier about professionalism state by state, I mean, I would think that the opportunities caused by the pandemic vary from the different places that you're in. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you saw different types of markets in metropolitan areas change and be affected pricing wise as well as volume. With the shifts of moving out of the higher density areas into the more rural or larger property sized type of areas. I mean, you saw relocation within the state of Florida, for example. A third of the state's sales of people moving within the state were from Miami-Dade County going elsewhere. So that's high density going out into these other areas, and that's specific to Florida. But we saw the same patterns in Georgia, people moving out of metropolitan Atlanta into the outskirts or outside the Beltway. Texas, same thing, out of Dallas going into the suburbs, therefore outside the city. I mean, we're just seeing the same kind of pattern everywhere. There's opportunity on the listing side within the higher density areas, but more on some of the down payment assistance programs or the new developments that are being done in the outskirts, kind of the outside of the downtown areas, where values are lower. They can get more for their property in the higher density areas and change that into a larger property on a larger lot with more benefits and newer construction on the outside. So you're seeing transitions, both size up and size down, but mostly related to making a smart financial decision in the end.
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, because this is a lead gen strategy saying, as I listened to Sarah, one is I 100% agree, people don't have time. People want to move into move-in ready houses. So we tell people with investors or if somebody's doing a remodel or something like that before that, if you have a dumpster out in that driveway, all the neighbors are paying attention to them. One of the things we would do from a lead gen is we would tell you, go do a nosy neighbor open house. The first day you open this thing up from 4 to 6 or 5 to 7 or whatever, have a nosy, because there's going to be someone in that neighborhood, right? You do a door knocker or a letter or an email, but go walk a 2 or 3 block radius. People are excited in the neighborhood when they see a house that's being updated and remodeled, because that's bringing a house that up in value, that's increasing the value of their houses. So we always tell people, if you're working with investors or you're working with people that are updating their house and there's a dumpster out there, go do a nosy neighbor. That's a great lead gen tool. If somebody's thinking about selling their house in the next 2 to 3 months, they're going to try to get over there because they're going to see, what do we need to do to our house? What's the value of our house? What are they pricing this house? So use those type of things as tools to take your listing and use it as a vehicle to pick up other potential buyers, but also other potential sellers.
Yeah. Can I piggyback off that for 1 sec?
Of course.
What I want you guys to take away, the agents that are watching this, is a lot of what we've spoken, to, Siri doesn't want to listen to me right now. A lot of what we've spoken to are excuses to speak with customers, excuses to speak with the members of the public. But it's more than finding the excuse. You gotta take action. You get nothing out of doing nothing. You must take these tools and these ideas and these concepts and these excuses and get off your tush and get out there and talk to people.
Yep. Well, we're getting close to the end, so I'm going to just leave a couple of minutes for questions. So I'm going to ask the final questions, and I'll just start with Sarah and work it to Jonathan and then to Vince. What would your best advice be as we close this session, which by the way, you guys have been amazing, what is your best advice when it comes to the lead gen? You got people out here that listen to all this stuff and all great ideas. I've been taking notes myself. But if you have to pick one or two things, Sarah, what would they be?
Work with Curbio. Ultimately be the solutions oriented agent. Understand that expectations have risen dramatically. It's like Vince and Jonathan said, concierge is table stakes. From an Uber to your shipping experience, to trying on clothes from Amazon, whatever it is, that is what everyone is looking for, is for a personalized experience. And so as an agent, have a solution that your sellers are expecting, because pre-listing updates, it's no longer, an option. Your sellers, they need to put forth a move-in ready home to attract the biggest number of today's interested buyers, and ultimately to fetch top dollar, which, as Vince said, rising tide lifts all boats, right? The neighbors are going to be happy that house sold for, over listing or for as listed, and it was an aspirational number. No one is going to be upset about that. And so that's my biggest piece of advice when it comes to lead gen. Of course, use Curbio, but be that solutions oriented agent. Walk in ready to nail every single listing and nurture those relationships. Yeah, what Jonathan said, get out there, have an excuse to get in touch with people, and have a reason to have them want to work with you.
Jonathan.
Okay, so it's going to be two-pronged. The first one is the days of shotgunning your marketing efforts and your plans for doing lead gen are over. You need to be very targeted and purposeful for the methods of marketing that you are putting out to generate contacts and leads coming in. With that being said, understand the target audience you have with each media method of your advertising for lead gen. If it's social media, understand the type of people you're going to reach and how you can leverage, or you must nurture those people for conversion. SEO, same thing. Bus benches, same thing. Even when you're going back to paying portals, paying one portal and not doing anything else is not going to be a consistent, sustainable lead generation pattern for you. You must diversify your efforts and be in different avenues and media sources.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Vince.
Yeah, one is use video, social media, technology, innovation to build and nurture relationships. But at the end of the day, you got to stop making excuses. You got to put a system in place to time block, to create good habits, to make sure that you're going to do what's the highest and best use of your time. Understand the value of your time, understand the dollar spent, and put systems in place that's going to create excuses for you to do the things that you need to do, because there's business out there. Doesn't matter what market we're in, there's plenty of business for those guys who are out there hustling, doing the right things, building and nurturing relationships, using everything together.
Okay. All right, so there's a couple of questions here, and we'll just take them before we wrap up. And actually, Vince, this is probably to you since you've mentioned it, but Jonathan, I'd love to hear from you as well. Give some example of systems and how you're holding people accountable to do the things that you're talking about.
Well, one is we would have accountability partners, or we have managers within that internally will coach, and they'll say, on every Sunday night or Monday morning, send us a list of your to-do list of here's the action items I'm going to do. What's 2 or 3 things you're going to focus on this week? And we try to get them to focus in on 2 or 3 things at a time. We don't want them doing a dozen things at a time, by the way. So get them to focus on 2 or 3 things, but then try to get an accountability partner or a coach or somebody to help you do that. But the truth is, get a CRM system. And for me, it's my Apple Calendar. I mean, I put everything in there, and I look at the first thing in the morning. It's create a habit of time blocking your prospecting, business growth, revenue generating activities into a calendar. And for me, if it's in there, I do it. If it's not in there and it's on a to-do list, it's easy to make excuses. And I see that with the majority of agents I coach. So time block, put a system, use a CRM system, but a Google Calendar, Apple Calendar, anything like that, and then become disciplined sticking to that.
Yeah, I think that's great. Jonathan, you're a broker. You probably have some systems in place as well.
Yeah, a few. So there's different avenues. There's the human accountability and there's the digital accountability. When you're referring to a new agent who's trying to formulate their business plan, their marketing plan, and kind of getting themselves ramped up in the first year or two, person-to-person mentorship is a big deal. And so new agents, we keep them accountable by leveraging the mentors that are enrolled in our program as well. Matching an experience with the new, it's on the mentor, and if they're not producing in that time frame, then the brokerage can very easily categorize that as a mentee who is not being productive. So we're able to follow up with the mentor, gauge where that is, and hopefully help push them over that edge. But on the digital side, it's very simple. Everything goes through one centralized system. We're big proponents for the KB Core platform. Everything is tied back through the multiple lead generation sources and avenues. They all feed right back in, where we can perceive how many contacts came in, how many converted, what stage they're in, and give real numbers, real statistics and data behind what's being successful and what's not, who's logging in, how they're following up, how often they're following up, and if they're holding up their end of the bargain. So yeah, a couple different avenues, but both of them at the end gives us the capability to outreach and reach those agents to actually perform.
Perfect. Well, Sarah, I guess this is perfect. The last question actually is for you. How do I get started with Curbio?
Oh, I love that question. What a great question. You can do it any number of ways. You can download our new app. So I'll say everything at Curbio, the best way to get started, everything begins with an estimate request. That immediately puts you in touch with a member of our sales team. We call them home improvement consultants. You can request that estimate. It's free. It's no obligation. We will be back in touch with you within 1 business day. We want to move very quickly, but you can request that free estimate either on our website, curbio.com/estimate, takes you right to our estimate page. You can download our mobile app and build an estimate request right in there. You can call us too. Our number is on our website. Either way, any way you want to come to us, request that estimate. It's basic information that we ask for ahead of time. Right when you request that estimate, it's your name, the agent's name, it's the listing address, and we will never contact your sellers. We will never share your information with third parties. It is internal to Curbio. So even if you're trying to win the listing and you want to come to us, request an estimate to spec it out so that you can walk into that listing appointment and say, hey, I know y'all have a really bad bathroom. I've got it. It's under control. Go ahead, do that before you walk into that listing appointment. So request that estimate. You'll hear from a member of our sales team. You'll talk with them about what you need. They'll give you a general estimate for what it's going to cost your sellers that they will pay at closing. And then from there, our process continues. It includes a 3D Matterport. We'll take a virtual walkthrough of the home. The home improvement consultant, you and your seller are going to sit down on a Zoom call and do a whole virtual walkthrough of the property to narrow in on scope of work. You'll stay in touch with that home improvement consultant all the way up until your seller signs a contract with us, and then you're passed off to your project manager, who manages the entire project start to finish. They coordinate permitting, they handle the subcontractors, they push through change orders, etc., everything that needs to be done to give you back time. So again, it all starts with requesting that estimate, free, no obligation. Go ahead, do it now. It takes 30 seconds. I know everybody's got a listing in mind, right? Or you're thinking about an investment property, or you've been looking to update your home because you're going to sell and you're going to move down to where Jonathan is in Florida. So go ahead, put in an estimate with our team, and we'll get you rolling from there. And we look forward to working with you. We love working with agents, and we cannot wait to make real estate move with you.
Well, thank you, Sarah, and thank you so much for sponsoring. Really, the 3 of you, Sarah, Jonathan, Vince, this has been a pleasure. I moderate a lot of panels and do a lot of this kind of thing, and it's been great. It's appreciate it, and appreciate you all joining us, and hope you got a lot of good nuggets out of this. Even if you walked away with 1 or 2, go out there and start making it happen. Have a great day.
Thank you.